how not only people like you guys who have liked the show all these years, I'm seeing kids like my own daughter, who's 7 years old. It's like, who's watching Digimon. And it's one of those timeless, classic anime that just does not get old. And I think the reason for that is because a lot of, at this point in time when Fox Kids decided to start doing Digimon, there was not a lot of anime that was out there that talked about some of the subject matter that was openly put out there in Digimon. Would you guys agree?
Yeah.
You know, how often are you gonna see kids who, you know, obviously, number one, have to try and save the world. Number two, have Digimon that actually talk to them, unlike another show that I'm not going to mention. Especially like when we get to season 2, where it gets really serious sometimes, and you talk about for the first time characters who feel alone, who feel like they don't belong, who are trying to get acclimated in society, but they realize that they're different. Hello, does that describe anybody? But yet somehow are able to be embraced by society into being quote unquote normal, you know? So yeah, it's all of that stuff. So I felt the need to create that type of panel for people like you guys, and it's really, we're here for you. I mean, it's awesome that we all get to, you know, kind of do like a mini
I'm here for the snacks. Which are where? Where's the pocket?
Yeah.
I'm here for the babes, but they're not here for me.
But, you know, we are here for you guys. So I know, especially for some of you hardcore fans, there's probably been some questions that you guys have had just burning for years and years that you guys would like to ask. So I want to open it up to you guys first and see, you know, what questions we can help you guys out with. Does anybody have a question? Please don't be shy. This is where we all get to find out answers to burning questions that we've had. Nobody has a question. Oh! Hang on a second. Yes, sir.
Well, great introduction, everybody, and you know, it's been excellent. But anyway, the main question I want to have for each of you, what do you think would be your favorite season of Digimon and why?
That's a great question.
All right. Who wants to start?
Absolutely season 2. Now I got to be Leomon throughout the whole show, no matter, I was Saber Leomon, Ice Leomon, have every kind of Leomon, you know, Tupperware Lady Leomon, I got to do it all. But season 2 was when I got to be Wormmon. And so when I was Wormmon, it made it a lot of fun. And so even though I was Leomon, in season 2 I got to do the wonderful work that we did. And Leomon, of course, was good, but Wormmon is my favorite.
How do you follow that, Josh?
Yeah, well, I can't, but I will. I would absolutely say not just season 1, but episode 1 of season 1, to the point where, well, you know, where I'm like Ty's sitting in the tree, and he has that moment that is, I talk about this in my speeches that I do now, actually, where he realizes there's a schism between the real world and the digital world. But if you think about what you were referring to, that was almost 20 years ago, that like the writers were already aware of what was going to happen. Like that's our lives now, but that was before iPhones, that was before smartphones or social media or any of that stuff. But it's really happened in real life. What was set up in episode 1, season 1 of Digimon, these kids leave the real world, go into the digital world, and then basically spend the rest of the season in movies attempting to fight their way back to reality. That's every day for us now, right? Where we've got that split, that challenge going on. So that would be it for me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I've had, well, I'm sure if you guys did your homework, you'd know I've pretty much been in every single season of Digimon except for season 5. And I've had the unique opportunity of being able to play various characters in each of those seasons. But I would have to agree with Paul, probably the one season that spoke to me the most was season 2, because that's when the Digimon Emperor, I think a lot of you guys could relate to that character, not only because we always struggle with the good and evil inside of us, but feeling alone, feeling isolated, feeling like we don't belong. I know that speaks for a lot of people that either are, sitting among us today or people that we know. And how do you get through that and still find a way to continue on doing what you need to do? Because, you just have to do it. So that was and it was a very tumultuous time in the actual production side of it as far as Saban goes, because Jeff Nimoy and Bob Buchholz started off directing season 2. And then there was a schism, and Mary Elizabeth McGlynn took over, and who was amazing in terms of what she was able to bring to the table. For not only season 2, but the rest of the seasons for Digimon. And so it was a lot of the stuff that you guys hear in the recording of season 2, especially, I'm not going to get into a lot of detail about it. If any of you guys, well, you know what? I should do a little bit of a survey. How many of you guys have not seen season 2? If you can raise your hand. Okay, so I won't spoil anything for you guys. So, enough said, desert scene. Okay? That was one of those times when we were going through a struggle in terms of production, because the place where we normally recorded at Saban, we couldn't record there because something happened to the facility and we had to move over to, where did we move to?
Oh shoot, we actually went to 2 different places.
Yeah.
And escapes me completely.
I know.
Some of them are out of business now, sadly.
I know, but so it was also a little unnerving as a voice actor, because if you were in every single episode and you had to go in and record every single week, it was like, I'm in a place and it's like weird and I have to get used to it, and then I'm not used to it because I get moved, and it was like, it was one of those weird things. But that everything that you heard from that particular episode was raw and real, and it could not have been done better, even with all of that production conflict that was in place. So anyway.
Great job, guys. Great question.
That was a really good question. Yes?
I guess to follow up on that, what was, because it sounds like when you were doing these episodes that you kind of did it like you went in each week and you had an episode that you were a part of that episode, or what was the schedule like?
So the basic question was, what was the schedule for us actors, depending on when we were going in to record? Did we go in every week? What was it like?
Sure, start left to right again. Okay. It could be very, very hectic. We, all of us, would have a role where we were cast, we auditioned, we got this role or something like that, and then they would throw other stuff at us. I remember when I finished an episode, or a set of episodes on a given day, whether I was Wormmon or Leomon, and they would say, all right, now we've got a couple of these other things to pick up, just a little part here and there, and they would actually, in one case, brought a picture up. And they said, this is Kiwimon, come up with a voice.
And now it is the stuff of legend.
Yes. That is the sort of situation we were in. They were just as pressed for time as anybody, and so they had to have us, as a group of actors that can do many voices, ready to go on this. And in the middle of all that, we also do the Digimon movie. And so I went in and I was doing Kokomon and Diaboromon and a couple of others in there. And it was very, very demonic and scary to do that stuff. And then 3 days later I came back in and I was Wormmon again. So it was such a bizarre experience. The schedule, as far as that goes, it varied greatly in terms of how busy they kept us. But I don't know a Digimon actor that would tell you that we got to take our time and we were bored.
the pace was really fast. Although we did get to take a little more time on that original Digimon movie.
Absolutely.
Which you mentioned Jeff Nimoy directed, and he was always generous with the back and forth in terms of interpretation and pacing and such. There's only so much leeway you have in dubbing to be able to do that, but more so in the movie. Now the other consideration is, of course, all of us, I assume, were also voicing other roles at the same time. I lived in Burbank, in Toluca Lake, right down the street from Warner Brothers Animation, and I was doing stuff over there, and I was doing stuff at Fox, 20th Century Fox, for promos for the Digimon movie, and then not recording Digimon at Fox, recording that somewhere else, and then going to an audition at my agent's down on Wilshire or whatever. Like, you spend half your day, or did, I don't know, you guys should fill me in since I don't live there anymore, as to whether this has changed, but back then it would be hours a day, back and forth between your agent and auditioning for things and going to studios and blah, blah, blah. And, wait, I have a question. Ooh, Mr. Moshak. Yeah, has that changed any? Are you able to do more auditioning from home now?
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely. I'd say it's probably 90% of the auditions are now done at home.
That would save a lot of time.
Yeah.
Yes.
My mechanic always looks at me quizzically because it takes me a long time to get 3,000 miles for the next oil change. Because I'll be at home, and Wednesday, the day before I came here for Omni, I went into an audition where I got to read for 3 roles, and they said, "Thank you for coming in." I thought, well, thank you for bringing me in because I like feedback. We do our MP3s at home, and we are it. We are the director, we are the mixer, we are everything. And we send out what we hope will be what they want. We don't get anybody saying, okay, let's try that again. Josh, a little bit slower that time, or Steve, I like that, but I liked it when you used your upper range, etc. We don't get that stuff, so we're it.
Yeah.
On the other hand, my God, yes, I love the fact that I'm at home, and I can get up from the sofa like this, audition, take my shoes back off, and sit down again. You know?
Voice actors basically like to be naked a lot.
In my particular case, naked and chafed, but okay. Oh! Is this an over 18 panel? I'm sorry. What?
Yeah. Back to you on the couch.
Oh my gosh. All right, next question. Anybody? No? Yeah.
His brains are scrambled.
Go for it.
Versus if I can record the answer, or do you not want me to record?
I guess it would depend on what the question is.
Ask what was your favorite, what's your favorite character voice? In Digimon?
It's up to you guys if you would, okay.
Okay.
This is one where? Where?
Yeah, where is it going?
Is this going for?
Just for your own personal use? You're not going to like
Told us
upload it or anything like that?
Yeah.
All right.
You can't stop people recording and everything.
For me, absolutely, Wormmon. I love the other characters I did. I love playing Leomon. Every one of us wants to be that hero that steps in. In my particular case, a gigantic hammer, and I create a split in the earth and say, "You will not harm these children." You know. But Wormmon had more heart and sweetness than pathos. Just the sweetest little character that you felt so sorry for and you wanted to hug him. You know, I absolutely adored playing that role.
Yeah, I mean, that's an easy answer for me because I pretty much just voice time, you know. I was supposed to, but if you were to say what's my favorite character to voice out of all the, according to IMDb's 70-some series of movies and things, which seems impossible for the short amount of time I was out there doing that, it would still be Ty because unlike a lot of animated characters, I didn't have to put any artifice on it. I didn't have to pretend to be someone I was not. In fact, I think that was probably the reason I got cast, because it was just being the energy of me, but just, you know, pitched up a little bit, you know, be a little bit younger, and then of course looking like you. Nice costume, other Ty. It's like looking in a mirror.
So obviously, without a doubt, I have to do a little bit of a backstory behind why I'm giving you my answer though. So, and hopefully this is going to speak to all of you guys as well. When I initially was, by the way, I don't know, did you guys always have to audition for stuff for Digimon? Did you, or were you asked to be in it?
Oh, you initially auditioned.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, with
Was it Doug Stone?
it was Doug Stone and Jeff at the beginning, and also one
And
time,
Jeff was the decision.
one time for Bob Buckholes, but they sent the stuff over to Fox.
Yeah.
And no, for Leo Mon, they just brought me in. I didn't actually read. And then for the
That's
movie,
awesome.
for Coco Mon, they said, we need you to do that voice.
Right.
And everybody in LA that I work with knows what that voice is, so they just brought me in.
That's awesome. For myself, I always had to audition for every single season that I was in, except for season 4. In season 2, I was only asked to audition for Vmon. That's it. They weren't considering me for anything else. And I remember, like it was yesterday, there was this table, and they had all the characters laid out that they were looking at casting, and I saw all of them, and then I saw Digimon Emperor. And I don't know what it was about that particular character that spoke to me. And there was something in the description, I mean, obviously, I didn't know about the character. It was like peeling layers of an onion off. But there was very little information given about him other than the fact that he was evil, but, you know, and it talked a little bit about, you know, how he was controlling the Digi universe and all that stuff. But there was just something about it that spoke to me. And I remember the vibe when I went in to audition, because it was a union project. So we got 15 minutes to be able to show our stuff, and at that 15-minute mark, you know, if you're like halfway done or you're thinking about doing something else, they go, you know, I'm sorry, I would really like to hear that, but we have to hear the next actor, and they basically kick you out. So I remember doing my 2 takes of Vmon, and they were fine with that. It was exactly what they were looking for, because it was the cutesy, furry, blue creature, you know, and they knew that I could do a character voice. And I had a few minutes left, and I said, and I almost didn't, I had the copy with me, and I almost like doubted myself and said, you know what, I'm not gonna do this. And I was ready to walk out, and I remembered, no, just do it. You're scared to death, but that's okay. And so I said, you know what, I do have a few more minutes. Is it okay if I audition for this other character, even though you guys didn't ask me to do it, called Digimon Emperor? And I remember the vibe on the other side of the booth, and it's like,
A different vibe.
yeah, no, it was like, yeah, okay, whatever. You know, it's like, because I'd never done that type of character before. They didn't know that I could do that stuff. So, you know, it's like, why would we need to hear you when we've got all these other great actors that can probably do that? And so I remember the 180 that happened after I did it, because I was able to bring something to that character that obviously they were looking for. And then the vibe on that was like, what just happened? You know? And very grateful that I did, because, you know, obviously if it hadn't been my own intuition and saying, you know, to stick up for myself and just say, I can do this, just believe you can.
Gosh darn it, you're good enough, you're smart enough.
And you got the pipes, baby!
Gosh darn it, people like me.
And gosh darn it, we like you. You know?
So young, they don't even know that reference.
So, yeah.
A round of applause, who even knows that reference? See, they don't. They don't know.
Yeah, I know.
They don't know what the hell we're talking about.
Way too young.
Saturday Night Live. No, anyway.
I'm gonna explain it to you.
So, without a doubt, I would have to say the Digimon Emperor, but the nice thing about that challenge was that even though we only knew a certain amount every time we go in to record, it's like, you know, sometimes we don't even know which character we're recording. We're just going in. It's like, you have a session with Digimon, go in and record. It's like, okay. And it's like, oh, by the way, you're doing Leomon. It's like, or you're doing Kokomon, or whatever, you know.
And they'll point and say, okay, bring it up, yeah, here's the character,
right.
Voice.
Yeah. So, but it was such a great opportunity as an actor to be able to have that kind of a character where the arc of it was so almost three-dimensional to an extent, because, you know, how often do you get to see a character that does a 180 from being a bad guy to a good guy? Not often. Yes, sir.
Well, that's called being in a relationship. You start out the bad guy. See, that's what builds attraction. Then you become the good guy. then you break up. Oh, that's true. That'll be at 4 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
Do you mind doing a voiceover for them of both Digimon and Emperor?
Do I mind? Like, I'm not sure I understand the question. Are you asking me to do the voices, or are you saying, did I mind doing that when I was actually recording? Because I did that. I was psychotic.
Digimon's doing the voices now for all of us, for both of them.
Oh, jeez Louise. Well,
Ask us to remember, it's like...
yeah, I mean, number one, when we hear, just so you guys understand, our challenge when you ask us to do a line from a character, when we go in and audition, at this point in time, in the lack of technology that existed when we were recording, because you didn't, I mean, I think the beeps were just starting to come into play, right? Yeah, so that was a very new technology for us, and
That's true. I forgot that. At first there weren't beeps.
right.
Yeah.
I know.
How the hell do
We go back that far.
Yeah.
We all do.
Oh yeah, we're...
It's like beeps are for sissies.
we were the
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, I recall the first time I went in and did something where they had beeps. I thought, what are you people wimps?
I know.
You know, we would do this stuff based on the time codes, and I don't mean just the minute and the second, 30 frames per second.
Yes.
Steve, you're coming in at 1 minute,
frames.
7 seconds,
Right.
and 4 frames.
Yes.
And that's how sharp you had to be.
Yes.
So when they gave us
And we had to walk to school both directions uphill
in the snow,
in the
barefoot.
snow.
This was before we had fire, but we eventually got beeps.
So not only were we dealing with a lack of technology, when we still pretty much, for the most part, had to look at the time code, memorize the time code, as we're looking up,
And the line.
and record and memorize the line, and then look up and without looking down at the script, because if we didn't look up at what we were recording, then we might not come in at the time code that we're supposed to come in at to get the mouth flaps exactly correct. And they didn't have the technology to be able to move it around at that point in time either. What are they using now? I can't remember.
Oh, Pro Tools and
Pro Tools.
the way they move.
Pro Tools did not exist.
And they'll
Pro
say-
Tools was like an embryo.
Yeah, you might want to say, oh, let me try it again. They said, no, we'll move it.
Right.
The trouble is, sometimes in those days they spent 5 minutes.
Yes.
Now it's fast, but in those days it took forever. I was like, I
And
could've
we
done
had to pay them. You guys did.
We had to bring food to them too.
What?
So for us actors, 3 things had to be memorized at the same time: the line, the time code, and then looking up and trying to get both of those to match what we were looking at. So for us to remember specific lines from the show is almost impossible, but only because I remember watching it, and I'm probably not going to get it correct, but it's like, the one thing that I can remember, and this was one of the few times that I actually got to actually talk to myself. Because when you go in and you're doing more than one character, what they will normally do is they will go through one character, they'll look at all the places where you're supposed to come in, and they'll move to that place so that you can go ahead and record that. For whatever warped reason, as an actor, I decided to do this. I said, you know what? I want to make it easy for you guys. Just leave it open and I'll leave a gap where I'm supposed to talk to myself as Digimon and as the Digimon Emperor. Because there was that one cavern episode where all the kids were, you know, chained against the mountain, and the Digimon Emperor's on top and Vimon's down below and humiliating Davis. And I don't remember what the words were exactly, but it was something to the effect of...
Alas, poor Yorick, I knew you well.
Huh?
Different show.
So it was something like...
I watched it.
Make Davis beg. You know, it's like... I'm sorry, Davis, but I have to do this. You know. So it's like one of those things, but it was... I guess, if that, there you go. You know what I was
Answer there. And we're done.
no, but the one, just so that you don't have to ask for it in the future, the one I normally get asked to do because it's an easy transition from one to the other when I was digivolving is Digimon Digivolve 2! Extremon!
We need a sing Digimon.
I have to admit, that was really good.
He's the best impersonator you can buy in this price range.
Oh, good to know.
Normally people say, no, we can't get Steve Prince, we can't
No, of
afford
course
it."
you can't get Steve
And
Prince.
I will say, no,
He's
no.
sunning himself in Malibu right now.
Right.
Steve Prince is surprisingly affordable these days.
You can rent him by the hour or the half.
Were there questions? Because I had actually a story I wanted to share with you guys.
Right here.
Huh?
That's button right here.
Down front, thank you.
Oh, down front. Yeah.
Nice.
When you come up with your voices, is there a specific... When you come up with your voices, is there a specific inspiration that you draw from, or do you just make it up in your head?
That's a great question.
Because when you did Digimon, he sounds a little bit like Gollum from Lord of the Rings, but I'm healing.
Okay. Anybody want to take that?
What our creative process is relative? Yeah, that's an interesting question. Thank you for that, man with doll.
Agumon, it's been so long, I've missed you.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I'm never interested in story. I'm not interested in too much information. I want to know the music. I want to know the relationship, you know. I want to know what this character wants, and I want to know if this were a character in Harry Potter, who would it be? So seriously. And because I've read all the Harry Potter books out loud at least 2 times, doing all the voices even back then.
That's awesome.
Yeah, well now I have kids as well. You say you have a 7-year-old?
Yeah.
So I have a 4 and a 6-year-old.
Right.
These are 2 separate humans. It was not a 2-year-long labor, should specify. And
What a woman.
so, yes, that's right. She's still in recovery. So that's why she went crazy on me. So, back to the story. I just want those questions answered and then be very present and open myself to what comes. I don't do any of this. I think, I've been acting professionally since I was 8 years old. I started doing 8 shows a week for the largest musical theater company in the country at the time. It was like 2,000 seats. From the time I was 8 to 18. And my first show was as the child lead in Yul Brynner's The King and I, the touring, the touring Broadway production. And so my background is theater, and that's why I like to be on stage now. And what you learn very quickly is...
Dude, I saw you when I was a kid.
You're fucking kidding me.
No, I'm serious.
Weird.
I saw the Yul Brynner.
Try to use your mic, that's why they... What?
I saw that? No, I'm serious.
Really?
So, now, I'm sorry.
I'm going to just take a nap over you guys. Have your king and I moment.
So, no.
I didn't even know I mentioned that.
I watched, as a kid, I must have been like 5 or 6 years old, I watched the King and I with Yul Brynner.
Which means I'm older than you. That's amazing. But you know who else came from musical theater background is Laura Joan Miller, who played Kari, my little sister, right? She's on Broadway in, what was it, Annie, or?
Yeah.
I'm sure somebody will correct me at some point. But my point in terms of finding character, what you learn from live stage work, that people that start on camera or start behind a mic maybe never realize, is no matter theory, technique, interpretation, breaking things down, getting in your head, takes you exact opposite direction of where you need to be as a performer. When you're on stage in front of a live audience, you have to be completely present every moment, every millisecond, or the artifice becomes apparent. So I carried that over into my voiceover work and now into the live shows that I went back to. That's basically what the secret sauce was for me. Those 4 questions and being completely present in the moment. And that is another key to life. as well, so you can extract value from every opportunity and interaction. Back to you, Seth Golden.
Oh, okay. Well, for me, I like paying homage to actors that I admire and know.
Hold on, my calls, I'm in surgery.
But that's what we don't answer it.
And so what I started doing from season 1 is anytime I had an opportunity to imitate a celebrity, I would. So I don't know if you guys remember from season 1 of the Dark Masters, which was Piedmon.
Yes.
That was one of the voices that I was able to do. That is a direct, like, impregnation from Tim Curry playing Frankenfurter from Rocky Horror Picture Show. And I just did, okay, that's perfect for Piedmon. And it worked, obviously. Trump card, you know. So I liked paying homage to that, and I did that continuously. Season 2, I did not do any interpretations of anybody. Season 3, obviously Impmon was a direct correlation to Joe Pesci. Season 4, you guys probably aren't old enough to remember this guy who was an actor from the 40s and 50s. His name was Jimmy Durante, but that was basically Jimmy Durante. And season 7, which technically is part 2 of Digimon Fusion, or Digimon X-Wars, depending on how you guys like to call it. But there was a bad Digimon called Zielzamon, who was a bee, and I thought, how great would it be if I could pay homage to Monty Python? So, remember in Holy Grail, the Frenchmen that were on top of the wall? That was basically one of the Frenchmen. So, sometimes, you know, it's based on the picture that I see in front of me and the description that I'm given, and then somehow my warped mind formulates a voice for that, and then sometimes it's just paying homage to somebody.
Oh, what a gesture! Ouch! This guy has
Away!
Oh my God! Who are you people? Who am I for that matter?
Genius.
It's magic.
I had a very, very heavy theatrical background. Growing up in San Diego, I sang in the opera company for 4 seasons, and I did work at the Old Globe Theater, which was one of the, still is one of the big regional theaters down in San Diego. I always had a problem with when someone would say, okay, everybody, give me about 20 minutes, I have to go get into character. And that's a mistake. I talk about it in my panel, which is a stage actor to voice actor. I'll be doing that tomorrow. You need to keep in mind what your character wants, what the writers are telling you, what the director tells you, what your instincts tell you, and bring that on the stage. And I explained to people, well, how do you get into character? I said, there are people that do get into character. You can see it right there, right? You can see how false that is. Or you can be you in the role, doing a different voice, doing a different walk. When I played Malvolio on stage, I had a different walk in a different manner because that's what that character called for, but that was me doing it. You always bring yourself to the role. You can't bring anyone else. Just like I talk about on auditions and whatever, and I say to a person, make sure you audition as you because nobody else can do you. Nobody, I can't. I can't get up there and do an impression of you. You will be better than I am.
If you're attractive enough, you can do me.
Yeah, if I was shorter, I could do you. I love this guy. I love it.
And the Digimon turn panel takes a hard left turn into the absurd and unwanted and unasked for.
And he just...
Nobody wants these images in their mind, for God's sake!
And then he puts me to sleep again. Oh, but I will hear a voice or something that makes me think of a kind of character, and I will remember that voice, but that doesn't actually make me think, okay, when I was Wormmon, that reminds me of Peter Lorre, okay? And so I'll do it like Peter Lorre. That didn't strike me. I come up with a voice that I think will work for the character based on the writing, and again, what the character is going to do. But I still bring me. Just that Josh brings Josh, Steve brings Steve, you know. You can do that, rather than come and say, I'm going to do this, but in the manner of Clark Gable, or something like that, you know. Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn, you know. You know, that's great to do an impression of a voice, but you still bring you still bring the person, and the emotion, and the intelligence to the role, hopefully, you know.
Nice.
That's a great question.
Yes, sir. Don't ever ask
You
me.
get candy.
This is mainly due to, this is mainly for Joshua Seth because it more relates to time.
Well, that's me!
Yeah, I'm on it. If you ever seen it, what did you think of the death battle between Agumon and Charizard?
Where would I have seen this?
It was on YouTube.
It's on YouTube!
Screw attack. Between Agumon and Charizard, and between the battle.
Wait a second. I think they asked me to voice that.
Yeah,
They
won
did
that.
ask me to voice that.
Oh, I didn't
Who voiced
notice.
that? Who
It
voiced
was
Team for
Screw Attack.
Is that the one?
Yeah, with Boomstick.
If that's the one that I'm thinking of, I don't watch very much. I'll talk about this in my creativity panel in a couple hours, but I don't take in very much, I don't consume much pop culture at all, because I feel like then all you end up being is derivative of, if you ever get to the point where you have any time for any output, it's just derivative of other things. So I may not have watched it.
Alright, well it's because
I think I'm peripherally aware of it because somebody they had asked me to, that might be the thing, they asked me to voice, and they were about to start recording the new Digimon Tri movies, and I didn't want to run afoul of the producers by doing it unauthorized. Yeah, so. Sorry, but somebody can show me over at the autograph table after this, and I'll take a look and tell you then what I think.
Yeah, I'll show you.
But I like that I won, since that seems to be the case.
Yeah, because
it's always, winning is always preferable to the alternative.
Yeah, I always say that because the spoiler alert, you did win.
Awesome! As well it should be. I'm not totally anti-Pokemon though, because for a while I was the announcer for that as a promo guy. Next on all new Pokemon. I did all those for the whole Saturday mornings on Kids WB. So, little known factoid just for you guys.
Wow, Digimon and Pokemon.
Shh,
Did we have?
don't tell anybody.
Yes.
So I have two questions.
Hey.
Hi.
I like you, you like me. Giggles.
So, well, first question is just for Joshua.
Who does your hair?
She does my hair.
Nice.
You said that you want to know what a character would be if they were in a Harry Potter book. So who would Ty be?
Well, he's Harry Potter, of course, yeah. Crest of courage, Harry Potter is courageous, you know, and in both cases they find out what they're made of when confronted with adversity, which is the case for all of us. We never know who we're capable of being if we never are confronted with things that are outside our control, adversity. You know. I will quote Henry Ford. An airplane can only take off against the wind because it requires resistance to attain lift. So that is what Ty and Harry Potter are both gifted with, if you will.
And can you place the rest of the Digidestin? The original Digidestin?
Given a bit of forethought, yes. I'm not going to do it right now. I need coffee. That would be an interesting exercise, though.
So, second question would be for all of you. Do you have a favorite scene?
Tyler, Matt is Snape.
I'm sorry, but I just laughed so hard.
On the inside.
So, if you guys have a favorite episode or scene from any of the seasons?
I already answered that at 1 and 1, but yeah.
Favorite episode, favorite scene?
Absolutely, my favorite episode was when we had gotten to the point where he saw kind of what he was doing and how bad things were, And I can't remember the dialogue. Once again, we just don't, we know those lines, but the gist of it was, Ken, I know you can still be a good boy. What you have to do is just try and remember.
Why does this always happen to me?
That actually sounded a lot like Kokichi. I know you did voice it.
There's a little bit of Sandra Bullock in there too.
Same answer, same episode, same scene. That was extremely pivotal, and one of those things that you cannot do more than one take of, because it surprised me as an actor when I had to record right after that happened, I'm sure in our lives, however long we've lived or short we've lived, we at least know somebody, if not ourselves, who has had a relationship with somebody who passed away. And that was just, it was, for 5 minutes, it was the most traumatizing time in recording because nobody could continue. We had to literally take a break and stop recording because I was so torn up and everybody else in the room was so torn up. It was just one of those moments that you just cannot get out of your head. I mean, it was good, but you know, the emotion that it brought up was raw, and there was no way to recreate that for a second take. But that was probably my most favorite.
I passed away myself in 1987, so I know where you speak.
And how are you still alive?
Who said? Hence my powers, things.
Well, he passed away, but he didn't eventually die yet. It's the two different things, you know. You pass away, then you die.
I am but spirit haunting this animated bag of flesh in which I find myself, floating on a rock, hurtling through space toward all of our inevitable demises.
Hashtag truth, baby! Are you guys both going to be at the autograph session after this?
Immediately after the session.
That was my idea too.
Okay,
I have to
cool.
go back up to my
So
stuff.
we do have to wrap things up. We are all going to be at the autograph tables after this. Also, for those of you guys who are over the age of 18 this evening, I will be doing a very, very special Digimon and Friends 18 Plus panel. You do not want to miss it because everything that you ever loved about Digimon will be completely thrashed for you. And it is to die for. So, if you guys can make it tonight at 9, see you there.
And yeah, please do come to my talk. Oh, thank you. Yeah, no. So I'm doing a talk about creativity, living a creative life, living your passions, that sort of thing at 4. I don't know where, but it's on the schedule.
Cool.
And then also tomorrow at 4, I'll be doing some version of my mentalism show in here, which is not my normal show. I'm going to pull out some stuff I rarely get to do because it's frightening, and I think you guys will dig it. So it's tomorrow right here.
Awesome. And Paul, do you have anything coming up later on today that you want to share?
We have, of course, Cards Against Humanity at 10 o'clock.
Yes!
Let's not forget that.
Am I doing that? I've never played.
Oh my God.
Oh,
What is that?
that would be so awesome.
I would like to learn. Is that
Yes!
tonight?
Yes!
Absolutely, it's tonight, 10 o'clock, 18 plus, and leave your inhibitions and your ability to be offended at the door, okay? Because that's what Cards Against Humanity is about. Tomorrow I will have stage actor to voice actor, and also more autograph time and all that. So by all means, pop on by the tables, talk to us. We love to share the stories. And we got stuff for you to see, to buy, and we have stuff to talk about. So let's do it.
All right. Follow us